Hey guys, what's going on today? BOJoeKO here, and I'm back for another NHL 16 related video for you guys today in reference to a very cool article that was released today by OperationSports.com. So before anything, make sure you guys go to the description down below and check out that article. What it was is basically, as you guys know, I'm going to be coming out with a lot of NHL 16 wishlist videos with Richard Head in the next couple weeks or months, depending on how long it takes us to get through all the game modes and discuss everything that we want about the game. But Operation Sports kind of took a different route on improvements or changes that could be coming to NHL 16 as a result of the real life changes and rule changes that could be possibly coming to the real life NHL. So as you guys know, there are, I believe, 3 or 4 big rule changes that the NHL is considering this year to change for the game for the 2015-2016 season. And Operation Sports basically talked about those ideas and how they could actually influence the NHL 16 video game as well. So what I'm going to be going over today, guys, is going to be going over all the 4 or 3 ideas that they talked about, as well as I wanted to get your guys' opinions as well on how you think they could, if they could make it into the NHL 16 version of the game, if they won't make it to the game, or what are your just general thoughts and ideas about the rule changes in general. So the first idea that they talked about was the 3-on-3 overtime. Now, this is a big thing, I personally think, for the real-life NHL as well as the game itself. Now, being a Flyers fan, the Flyers are not very good at shootouts. So this is a very good idea that they think they should implement. I'm fairly certain, now correct me guys if I'm wrong, I'm fairly certain the AHL already has this rule intact, but I think they're bringing it to the NHL. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. So basically the whole idea is, what they're trying to do is, decide a hockey game without the use of the shootout, which I obviously think is a good idea, to be honest. I don't like the shootout at all. I think it's a stupid way to determine a game, to be honest. Yeah, it may look cool. It might be nice to see, your favorite NHL players throughout the entire league pulling off some awesome dekes and whatnot, but I personally think it's a good idea to decide the game without the shootout. So what they're trying to do in the real-life NHL is have it 4-on-4 overtime and then change it to 3-on-3 overtime, whether that means cutting the regular 5 minutes in half, 250 for 4-on-4, 250 for 3-on-3, or extending the time up to, I believe, 7 minutes, and then having 3-on-3 for, what would that be, 350 each? Yeah, 7-minute period with 350 on, no, I'm retarded, 330, what am I saying? 330 time each, and that would be 230 each for 5 minutes. But whatever the case, it's just trying to extend the time so that a hockey game is determined. Make the shootout the last possible cause of determining it in the real-life NHL. Now, as for the video game itself, I think it'd be cool because you already know if you go to overtime, it's already 4-on-4. There's a ton of ice time, a ton of ice to work with. If you make it 3-on-3, which is possible in the game, if you take 2 penalties in overtime, if you have like a roughing call or something like that, it does go to 3-on-3. You can tell by the amount of ice that is available for you to work with is enormous. It's so much ice that you can work with. You really have to utilize your defenseman a lot because you only have one forward, so your defensemen are kind of going to be playing the forward role. But as for the game itself, I don't know how much of a big impact it would be unless they slow down the clock in overtime. As you guys know, the clock already goes at an extended speed in overtime. Like I said, it's a 5-minute clock, but normally it's only going to be about like half the amount of time, like 2 minutes or so for overtime, depending on stoppages or penalties or anything like those matters. So I think it'd be cool to put it in the game. Well, I think it have a massive effect on overtime games. Not really, unless you can get the job done. You can work the ice surface really well. That game more than likely would go to a shootout. Okay, so next up, the idea that they presented to us was coaches challenges. Now, I believe that they are trying to implement coaches challenges like they have in the NFL regarding, penalties, catches, touchdowns, first downs, that kind of thing. But this year they're trying to implement coaches challenges to, I think, delay of game penalties and goaltender interference calls. Because more than likely, there's no point to implement coaches challenges for goals because more than half the time, I would say the goals are reviewed anyway if something seems oddly weird about the goal. So if you see the goaltender reacting in a weird way, he'll look right at the referee, and then, they'll gather up and try to review the call because something may have gone funky. Because as you guys know, as they mentioned here in Operation Sports, that the AI already looks at high sticking calls and goals that appear to be kicked in. So if they were to implement this coaches challenges rule for delay game penalties and goaltender interference calls, there are a ton of them in NHL 15, which they do make a note of. As you guys probably know, the goaltender interference calls are very, very random. We'll say they're very random this year, whether you can knock a goaltender out of his crease and then shoot it in and it counts, or you can do the exact same thing and it'll be called goaltender interference call, or you'll barely touch the goalie and it'll be a goaltender interference call. Whatever the case, the goaltender interference calls are very random this year. So if they do implement something like this, as they mentioned, the AI will have to be, I guess, improved to a certain case. Will this actually have a profound effect on the game? Not really. How many games do you guys play in anyway where there's going to be a delay a game penalty? Goaltender interference calls? Yeah, more than likely there will be a goaltender interference call somewhere in the game along the lines. If you play 2 games, more than likely you'll get a goaltender interference call in one of them. So I could see that having a good thing, but as for EA improving the AI to a point where they could actually use these challenges implemented, I don't know. I think it's a pretty big stretch. Okay, so now we move on to the AllStar Game revamp. As you guys know, I'm actually going to read this part because I have not read it yet before. So the other idea that's coming into focus in recent days is a retooled AllStar Game that would possibly involve breaking up all the voted and appointed All-Star players into small teams where they would play a March Madness of sorts, tournament that played down to crown one winner. The conceit would be to create a feeling of inertia and meaning to the proceedings, but one wonders if that might just be a big slog to get through. Conversely, they could just make the game worth home advantage in the Stanley Cup Finals for winning the conference like they do in baseball, but that would require going back to conference teams in the All-Star Game, which honestly I don't have a big deal about. If you guys look at all the All-Star Games around the entire sports league, what is the only one that is worth watching in my opinion? It's the baseball one, because they're actually playing for something. All the other All-Star Games around the league, there's no point in playing them because you're not playing for anything. The NBA, NFL, NHL, all those All-Star Games don't have a purpose. The MLB is the only All-Star Game that actually has a purpose, and you can tell out there because the players are actually playing to win the game. Sure, they're having fun, and it's a nice experience, but there's a point to winning the game, and I think that'd be cool if the NHL did something like that as well to determine home ice advantage in the Stanley Cup Finals. This is another idea that's hard to see the EA team implementing in time for NHL 16's release, but it does depend on how elaborate any retooling is. If it was a tournament format, the game already supports that kind of functionality on a basic level, and it would mean that there just would be some kind of basic player draft to get things going. It would be kind of a neat fantasy element to give the All-Star Game some meaning, and it dovetails nicely into HUT, which is a mix of players and scenarios being possible. So yeah, I like the idea. I like that idea. Make the All-Star Game mean something. Sure, it's a fun experience too, for the players to play, and it's a fun experience for the people to watch on television or be there in person, all the skills competitions and stuff like that. But I like that idea. Make the All-Star Game have some purpose, but then again, since baseball doesn't have hitting, NHL has hitting, and, there's a risk of injury, I could see the other side, a double-sided sword, if you will. So if you want to make it mean something, does that mean you have to implement checking and that kind of stuff in there? So I don't know. It's definitely a lot of room for debate come this summer and spring when they talk about all these issues. So let me know what you guys think about these 3 new ideas that they're trying to implement into the real-life NHL and how they could have a profound effect on the game. So 3-on-3 overtime, coaches challenges, and the All-Star Game revamp. Let me know what you guys think about all those ideas and how you think they could fare if they were put into NHL 16. Because more than likely, all 3 of them are not going to get included. More than likely, one of them will. So which one do you guys think will get implemented, and how you think they would fare in NHL 16. So thanks guys for watching. Like I said, the link for this article is in the description below. Make sure you guys go check it out. It's a very good read. And other than that, thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to stay tuned for more NHL 16 related news in the future. So thanks for watching. See you next time.